You want to have this. See this?
Well, that's
Oh.
very nice.
Yeah.
Is that showing everybody now? Are they seeing both of us?
Well, I don't know. I think they just see the speaker. Since I'm speaking, I think they'll see this picture of Joe and Guinn that we're dedicating our reading to. And I think when you start reading that it will switch back to you. And in the meantime,
okay, I'm gonna give it a read here.
take it away, Bob.
To the divine ones, the Trikeia, who are the embodiment of the all-enlightened mind itself, obeisance. This treatise appertains to the profound doctrine of self-liberation by meditating upon the peaceful and wrathful deities. It expounds the yoga of knowing the mind, the seeing of reality, self-liberation. By this method, one's mind is understood. Guru's first charge to the disciples and the invocation. O blessed disciples, ponder these teachings deeply. Samaya Gaya 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 Imaho. Salutation to the one mind. All hail to the one mind that embraces the whole samsara and nirvana, that eternally is as it is, yet is unknown. That, although ever clear and ever existing, is not visible. That, although radiant and unobscured, is not recognized. These teachings supplement those of the Buddhas. These teachings are for the purpose of enabling one to know this mind. All that's been taught heretofore by the Buddhas of the three times, in virtue of their having known this mind, as recorded in the door of the Dharma, consisting of the 84,000 shlokas and elsewhere, remains incomprehensible. The conquerors have not elsewhere taught anything concerning the one mind. Although as vast as the illimitable sky, the sacred scriptures contain but a few words relating to knowledge of this mind. This, the true explanation of these eternal teachings of the conquerors, constitutes the correct method of their practical application. Kai kai ho, blessed disciples, hearken. The result of not knowing the one mind. Knowledge of that which is vulgarly called mind is widespread, inasmuch as the one mind is unknown or thought of erroneously, or known one-sidedly without being thoroughly known as it is. Desire for these teachings will be immeasurable. They'll also be sought after by ordinary individuals who, not knowing the one mind, do not know themselves. They wander hither and thither in the three regions and thus among the 6 classes of beings suffering sorrow. Such is the result of their not having attained understanding of their mind. Because their sufferings in every way overpowering, even self-controls lacking to them. Thus, although one may wish to know the mind as it is, one fails. The results of desires. Others, in accordance with our own particular faith and practice, having become fettered by desires, cannot perceive the clear light. We're overwhelmed by suffering and are in darkness because of our suffering. Although the middle path contains the twofold truth, because of desires, it finally becomes obscured. Desires likewise obscure Kriya Yoga, Seva Sadhana, and even the greatest and sublimest states of mind. The transcendent at one-ment, there being really no duality, pluralism's untrue. Until duality's transcended and at one-ment realized, enlightenment cannot be attained. The whole samsara and nirvana as an inseparable unity are one's mind. The great self-liberation, owing to worldly beliefs, which we're free to accept or reject, we wander in the samsara. Therefore, practicing the Dharma, freed from every attachment, grasp the whole essence of these teachings expounded in this yoga of self-liberation by knowing the mind in its real nature. The truths set forth herein are known as the great self-liberation, and in them culminates the doctrine of the great ultimate perfection. Guru's third charge to the disciples, Samaya Gaya Gaya Gaya, the true nature of mind, that which is commonly called minds of intuitive wisdom. Although the one mind is, it has no existence, being the source of all the bliss of nirvana and all the sorrow of the samsara, it's cherished alike in the 11 yanas. The names given to the mind, the various names given to it are innumerable. Some call it the mental self. Certain heretics call it the ego. By Hinayanists, it's called the essentiality of doctrines. By the Yogacharya, it's called wisdom. Some call it the means of attaining the other shore of wisdom. Some call it the Buddha essence. Some call it the great symbol. Some call it the soul seed. Some call it the potentiality of truth. Some call it the all foundation. Other names in ordinary language are also given to it. You want to read part 2, Brother Paul?
Okay, I'll read a little bit. Part 2, the practical application, the timelessness of mind, timelessness of mind. If one knows how to apply in a threefold manner this knowing of the mind, all past knowledge lost to memory becomes perfectly clear. And also knowledge of the future, thought of as unborn and unconceived. In the present, when the mind remains as it is naturally, it is ordinarily comprehended by its own time. The mind in its true state, when one seeks one's mind in its true state, is found to be quite intelligible, although invisible. In its true state, mind is naked, immaculate, not made of anything, being of the voidness, clear, vacuous, without duality, transparent, timeless, uncompounded, unimpeded, colorless, not realizable as a separate thing, but as the unity of all things, yet not composed of them, of one taste, and transcendent over differentiation. Nor is one's own mind separable from other minds. To realize the quintessential being of the one mind is to realize the immutable at one-ment of the Trikaya. The mind, being as the uncreated and of the voidness, the Dharmakaya, and as the vacuous and self-radiant, the Sambhogakaya, and as the unobscured, shining for all living creatures, the Nirmanakaya, is the primordial essence wherein its three divine aspects are one. If the yogic application of this wisdom be thorough, one will comprehend that which has just been set forth above. Mind is non-created. Mind in its true nature being non-created and self-radiant, how can one, without knowing the mind, assert that mind is created? There being in this yoga nothing objective upon which to meditate, how can one, without having ascertained the true nature of mind by meditation, assert that mind is created? Mind in its true state being reality, how can one, without having discovered one's own mind, assert that mind is created? Mind in its true state being undoubtedly ever existing, How can one, without having seen the mind face to face, assert that mind is created? The thinking principle, being of the very essence of mind, how can one, without having sought and found it, assert that mind is created? Mind being transcended over creation and thus partaking of the uncreated, how can one assert that mind is created? Mind, being in its primordial, unmodified naturalness, non-created, as it should be taken to be, and without form, how can one assert that it is created? Inasmuch as mind can also be taken to be devoid of quality, how can one venture to assert that it is created? The self-born, qualityless mind, being like the three voids, undifferentiated, unmodified, how can one assert that mind is created? Mind being without objectivity and causation, self-originated, self-born, how can one, without having endeavored to know mind, assert that mind is created? Inasmuch as divine wisdom dawns in accordance with its own time, and one is emancipated, how can opponents of these teachings assert that it is created? Mind, being as it is of this nature and thus unknowable, how can one assert that it is created? The yoga of introspection. The one mind, being verily of the voidness and without any foundation, one's mind is likewise as vacuous as the sky. To know whether this be so or not,
Look within thine own mind.
being of the voidness and thus not to be conceived as having beginning or ending, self-born wisdom has in reality been shining forever, like the sun's essentiality, itself unborn. To know whether this be so or not,
Look within thine own mind.
divine wisdom is undoubtedly indestructible, unbreakable, like the ever-flowing current of a river. To know whether this be so or not,
Look within thine own mind.
being merely a flux of instability like the air of the firmament, objective appearances are without power to fascinate and fetter. To know whether this be so or not,
Look within thine own mind.
all appearances are verily one's own concepts, self-conceived in the mind, like reflections seen in a mirror. To know whether this be so or not,
Look within thine own mind.
arising of themselves and being naturally free like the clouds in the sky, all external appearances verily fade away into their own respective places. To know whether this be so or not.
Look within thine own mind.
Okay, Bob, you read the Dharma within.
The Dharma within. The Dharma being nowhere save in the mind, there's no other place of meditation than the mind. The Dharma being nowhere save in the mind, there's no other doctrine to be taught or practiced elsewhere. The Dharma being nowhere save in the mind, there's no other place of truth for the observance of a vow. The Dharma being nowhere save in the mind, there's no Dharma elsewhere whereby liberation may be attained. Again and again.
Look within thine own mind.
When looking outwards into the vacuity of space, there's no place to be found where the mind is shining. When looking inwards into one's own mind in search of the shining, there's no to be found no thing that shines. One's own mind is transparent, without quality. Being of the clear light of the voidness, one's own mind is of the Dharmakaya, being void of quality. It's comparable to a cloudless sky. It's not a multiplicity, and it is omniscient. Very great indeed is the difference between knowing and not knowing the import of these teachings. The wondrousness of these teachings. This self-originated clear light, eternally unborn, is a parentless babe of wisdom.
Wondrous is this.
Being non-created, it's natural wisdom.
Wondrous is this.
Not having known birth, it knows not death.
Wondrous is this.
Although it is total reality, there's no perceiver of it.
Wondrous is this.
Although wandering in the samsara, it remains undefiled by evil.
Wondrous is this.
Although seeing the Buddha, it remains unallied to good.
Wondrous is this.
Although possessed by all beings, it's not recognized.
Wondrous is this.
Those not knowing the fruit of this yoga seek other fruit.
Wondrous is this.
Although the clear light of reality shines within one's own mind, the multitude look for it elsewhere.
Wondrous is this.
The fourfold great path. All hail to this wisdom here set forth concerning the invisible, immaculate mind. This teaching's the most excellent of teachings. This meditation, devoid of mental concentration, all embracing, free from every imperfection, is the most excellent of meditations. This practice concerning the uncreated state, when rightly comprehended, is the most excellent of practices. This fruit of the yoga of the eternally unsought, naturally produced, is the most excellent of fruits. Herewith, we've accurately revealed the fourfold great path. This teaching without error, this great path, is of the clear wisdom here set forth, which, being clear and unerring, is called
the path.
This meditation upon this unerring great path is of the clear wisdom here set forth, which, being clear and unerring, is called
The path.
This practice relating to the unerring great path is of the clear wisdom here set forth, which, being clear and unerring, is called
The path.
The fruit of this unerring great path is of the clear wisdom here set forth, which, being clear and unerring, is called
The path.
The great light. This yoga also concerns the foundation of the immutable great light. The teaching of this changeless great lights of the unique clear wisdom here set forth, which, being clear, which illuminating the three times, is called
The light.
The meditation upon this changeless great lights of the unique clear wisdom here set forth, which, illuminating the three times, is called
The light.
The practice relating to this changeless great lights of the unique clear wisdom here set forth, which illuminating the three times, is called
The light.
The fruit of this changeless great lights of the unique clear wisdom here set forth, which illuminating the three times, is called
The light.
The doctrine of the three times. The essence of the doctrine concerning the three times in at-one-ment will now be expounded. The yoga concerning past and future not being practiced, memory of the past remains latent. The future not being welcomed is completely severed by the mind from the present. The present not being fixable remains in the state of voidness. The yoga of the nirvanic path. There being no thing upon which to meditate, no meditation is there whatsoever. There being no thing to go astray, no going astray is there if one be guided by memory. Without meditating, without going astray, look into the true state, wherein self-cognition, self-knowledge, self-illumination shine resplendently. These, so shining, are called
Bodhisattvic mind. The
in the realm of
bodhisattvic
wisdom,
mind.
the bodhisattvic mind. Yay. In the realm of wisdom, transcendent over all meditation, naturally illuminative, where there's no going astray, the vacuous concepts, the self-liberation, and the primordial voidness are of the Dharmakaya. Without realization of this, the goal of the nirvanic path is unattainable. Simultaneously with this realization, the Vajrasattva state is realized. These teachings are exhaustive of all knowledge, exceedingly deep and immeasurable. Although they're to be contemplated in a variety of ways, to this mind of self-cognition and self-originated wisdom, there are no two such things as contemplation and contemplator. When exhaustively contemplated, these teachings merge in at one-ment with the scholarly seeker who sought them, although the seeker himself, when sought, cannot be found. Thereupon is attained the goal of the seeking and also the end of the search itself. Then nothing more is there to be sought, nor is there need to seek anything. This beginningless, vacuous, unconfused, clear wisdom of self-cognitions, the very same as that set forth in the doctrine of the great perfection. Although there are no two such things as knowing and not knowing, there are profound and innumerable sorts of meditation, and surpassingly excellent it is in the end to know one's mind. There being no two such things as object of meditation and meditator, if by those who practice or do not practice meditation, the meditator of meditation be sought and not found, thereupon the goal of the meditation's reached and also the end of the meditation itself. There being no two such things as meditation and object of meditation, there's no need to fall under the sway of deeply obscuring ignorance, for as the result of meditation upon the unmodified quiescence of mind, the non-created wisdom instantaneously shines forth clearly. Although there's an innumerable variety of profound practices to one's mind in its true state, they're non-existence, for there's no two such things as existence and non-existence. There being no two such things as practice and practitioner, if by those who practice or do not practice, the practitioner of practice be sought and not found. Thereupon the goal of practice is reached and also the end of the practice itself. Inasmuch as from eternity there's nothing whatsoever to be practiced, there's no need to fall under the sway of errant propensities. The non-created self-radiant wisdom here set forth, being actionless, immaculate, transcendent over acceptance or rejection, is itself the perfect practice. Although there are no two such things as pure and impure, there's an innumerable variety of the fruits of yoga, all of which to one's mind in its true state are the conscious content of the non-created trikeya. There being no two such things as action or performer of action. If one seeks the performer of action and no performer of action be found anywhere, thereupon the goal of all fruit obtainings reached and also the final consummation itself. There being no other method whatsoever of obtaining the fruit, there's no need to fall under the sway of dualities of accepting and rejecting, trusting or distrusting these teachings. Realization of the self-radiant and self-born wisdom as the manifestation of the trikeya in the self-cognizing mind is the very fruit of attaining the perfect nirvana. You want to read, Paul?
The explanation of the names given to this wisdom delivers one from the eternally transitory 8 names. Inasmuch does not fall under the sway of any extreme, it is called the middle path. It is called wisdom because of its unbroken continuity of memory. Being the essence of the veracity of the vacuity of mind, it is called the essence of the Buddhas. If the significance of these teachings were known by all beings, surpassingly excellent would it be. Therefore, these teachings are called the means of attaining the other shore wisdom, or the transcendental wisdom. To them who have passed away into nirvana, this mind is both beginningless and endless, therefore it is called the great symbol. Inasmuch as this mind, by being known and by not being known, becomes the foundation of all the joys of nirvana and of all the sorrows of the samsara, it is called the all foundation. The impatient, ordinary person, when dwelling in his fleshly body, calls this very clear wisdom common intelligence. Regardless of whatever elegant and varied names be given to this wisdom as the result of thorough study, what wisdom other than it, as here revealed, can one really desire? To desire more than this wisdom is to be found like one who seeks an elephant by following its footprints when the elephant itself has been found. The yoga of the thatness. Quite impossible is it, even though one seek throughout the three regions to find the Buddha elsewhere than in the mind, or quite impossible is it, even though one seek throughout the three regions to find the Buddha elsewhere than in the mind. Although he that is ignorant of this may seek externally or outside the mind to know himself or herself, how is it possible to find oneself when seeking others rather than oneself? The one that thus seeks to know oneself is like a fool giving a performance in the midst of a crowd and forgetting who the person is and then seeking everywhere to find oneself. This simile also applies to one's erring in other ways. Unless one knows or sees the natural state of substances or things and recognizes the light in the mind, release from the samsara is unattainable. Unless one sees the Buddha in one's mind, nirvana is obscured. Although the wisdom of nirvana and the ignorance of the samsara illusorily appear to be two things, they cannot truly be differentiated. It is an error to conceive them otherwise than as one. Erring and non-erring are intrinsically also a unity. By not taking the mind to be naturally a duality and allowing it as the primordial consciousness to abide in its own place, beings attain deliverance. The error of doing otherwise than this arises not from ignorance in the mind itself, but from not having sought to know the thatness. Seek within thine own self-illuminated, self-originated mind, whence firstly, all such concepts arise, secondly, where they exist, and lastly, whither they vanish. This realization is likened to that of a crow, which, although already in possession of a pond, flies off elsewhere to quench its thirst, and finding no other drinking place, returns to the one pond. Similarly, the radiance which emanates from the one mind, by emanating from one's own mind, emancipates the mind. The one mind, omniscient, vacuous, immaculate, eternally the unobscured, voidness, void of quality as the sky, self-originated wisdom, shining clearly, imperishable, is itself the thatness. The whole visible universe also symbolizes the one mind. By knowing the all consciousness in one's mind, one knows it to be as void of quality as the sky. Although the sky may be taken provisionally as an illustration of the unpredicable thatness, it is only symbolically so, inasmuch as the vacuity of all visible things is to be recognized as merely analogous to the apparent vacuity of the sky, devoid of mind, content, and form. The knowing of the mind does not depend on the sky symbol. Therefore, not straying from the path, remain in that very state of the voidness. The various concepts, being illusory, some of them and none of them real, fade away accordingly. Thus, for example, everything postulated of the whole, the samsara and the nirvana, arise from nothing more than mental concepts. Changes in one's train of thought or in one's association of ideas produce corresponding changes in one's conception of the external world. Therefore, the various views concerning things are due merely to different mental concepts. The 6 classes of beings respectively conceive ideas in different ways. The unenlightened externally see the externally transitory dually. The various doctrines are seen in accordance with one's own mental concepts. As a thing is viewed, so it appears. To see things as a multiplicity, and so to cleave unto separateness is to err. Now follows the yoga of knowing all mental concepts. The seeing of the radiance of this wisdom or mind which shines without being perceived is Buddhahood. The seeing of the radiance of this wisdom or mind which shines without being perceived is Buddhahood. Mistake not, by not controlling one's thoughts, one errs. By controlling and understanding the thought process in one's mind, emancipation is attained automatically. In general, all things mentally perceived are concepts. The bodily forms in which the world of appearances is contained are also concepts of mind. The quintessence of the 6 classes of beings is also a mental concept. The happiness of gods in heaven worlds and of men is another mental concept. The 3 unhappy states of suffering, too, are concepts of the mind. Ignorance, miseries, and the 5 poisons are likewise mental concepts. Self-originated divine wisdom is also a concept of the mind. The full realization of the passing away into nirvana is also a concept of mind. Misfortune caused by demons and evil spirits is also a concept of mind. Gods and good fortune are also concepts of mind. Likewise, the various perfections are mental concepts. Unconscious one-pointedness is also a mental concept. The color of any objective thing is also a mental concept. The quality and formless is also a mental concept. The one and the many in at one-man is also a mental concept. Existence and non-existence, as well as the non-created, are concepts of the mind. Okay, I think maybe you should finish the rest.
The realization and the great liberation. Nothing save mind is conceivable. Mind, when uninhibited, conceives all that comes into existence. That which comes into existence is like the wave of an ocean. That state of mind, transcendent over dualities, brings liberation. It matters not what name may be carelessly applied to mind. Truly, mind is one, and apart from mind, there is not else. That unique one mind is foundationless and rootless. There's nothing else to be realized. The non-created is the non-visible. By knowing this invisible voidness and the clear light, through not seeing them separately, there being no multiplicity in the voidness, one's own clear mind may be known, but yet the thatness itself is not knowable. Mind is beyond nature, but is experienced in bodily forms. The realization of the one mind constitutes the all deliverance. Without mastery of the mental processes, there can be no realization. Similarly, though sesame seeds the source of oil and milk's the source of butter, not until the seed be pressed and the milk churned do the oil and butter appear. although sentient beings are of the Buddha essence itself. Not until they realize this can they attain nirvana. Even a coward or an illiterate person may, by realization, attain liberation. The concluding sections, the general conclusion. Though lacking in power of expression, the authors here made a faithful record of his own yogic experiences. To one who's tasted honey, it's superfluous to provide an explanation. Anyway, you get the point. Who've not tasted it to offer an explanation of its taste. Not knowing the one mind, even pandits go astray, despite their cleverness in expounding the many different doctrinal systems. To give ear to the reports of one who's neither seen or approached the mind, or seen the Buddha even for a moment, it's like hearkening to flying rumors concerning a distant place one's never visited. Simultaneously with the knowing of the mind comes release from good and evil. If the mind's not known, all practices of good and evil result in nothing more than heaven or hell or samsara. As soon as one's mind is known to be of the wisdom of the voidness, concepts like good and evil karma cease to exist. Even as in the empty sky there seems to be, but is not, a fountain of water, so in the voidness is neither good nor evil. When one's mind is thus known in its nakedness, the doctrine of seeing the mind naked, this self-liberation seemed to be exceedingly profound. Seek therefore thine own wisdom within thee. It is the vast deep. The final good wishes, all hail. This is the knowing of the mind, the seeing of reality, self-liberation. For the sake of future generations who shall be born during the age of darkness, these essential aphorisms, necessarily brief and concise, herein set forth, were written down in accordance with tantric teachings. Although taught and during this present epoch, the text of them was hidden away amidst a cache of precious things. May this book be read by those blessed devotees of the future. The Guru's final charge to the disciples, Samaya, Gaya, Gaya, Gaya. Vast, vast, vast is divine wisdom. These teachings, called the knowing of the mind in its self-identifying, self-realizing, self-liberating reality, were formulated by Padmasambhava, the spiritually endowed teacher from Urdhyan. May they not wane until the whole samsara is emptied.
Therefore, O Ananda, be ye lamps unto yourselves, be ye a refuge to yourselves. Betake yourselves to no external refuge. Hold fast to the truth as a lamp. Hold fast to the truth as a refuge. Look not for refuge to anyone besides yourselves. Well, that's pretty good, huh?
I love it.
Yep.
Sound pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see how it comes out, there's probably a way to record it where they would have seen both of us at the same time, but I think it's going to do just the one that is speaking. However, we shall see, but we shall see me here in Oregon and you there in Nevada.
Yeah, your voice occasionally sounded very underwater, but I think that's just my reception. I think it probably came very clear.
Mm.